been a while since I've done a video, and there is a topic I want to talk about now, and it's the new hydraulic fifth coil shock that everybody's kind of trying out. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I just want to give my take on what it does, how it works, and where we're all going with that. So let's roll the intro and let's talk about that hydraulic fifth coil shock. I've spent the last 30 plus years working on race cars, building race cars, and racing cars. And I'm here to help you better understand racing technology. Okay, now the hydraulic fifth coil shock it's kind of like we used to run. We always used to run between 300 and 400 pound spring on there, but there is a little bit of a difference. When that thing wraps up, what I've been told, and we've tested it, is it wraps about 300 pounds on the way up, and it's very consistent. But the thing is as opposed to a fifth coil spring deal, it is 300, but it bleeds off. So you're not locking it up. With a fifth coil deal, you're going up and it's 300 for the first inch, it's 600, 900, and you got 900 pounds loaded into that thing. So when you lift off the gas, your rebound is very dependent on keeping that thing loaded up or unloading it, because without rebound, that thing's just going to want to snap. So the rebound is probably more important on a spring shock than it is on the hydraulic shock, because the hydraulic will bleed off and you won't have that loaded in spring deal on there. But the difference is when you get back with it. Now those shocks are usually positioned with like a bump rubber in there, a bump system of some sort, some sort of padded bump stop in there. So when that thing gets totally loaded in, that fifth coil shock is almost locked up, we'll say. It's just running on those bump stops, which if you get back in it real quick, those things are like almost instant, because the spring rate on a bump stop is way higher than on a 300 pound spring. We always used to take, and the rule of thumb for years was the softer the spring, the farther it pulled you down the straightaway without breaking the rear end loose. And the stiffer the spring, the more it would give you like instant traction right off the corner. And similar, we used to run a Rayburn pull rod in the swing arm days and all that. And that was, if I remember right, like a 12 to 1600 pound spring, somewhere through that range. If you ran a Rayburn, it was a green spring. If you ran PPM, it was a red spring. But that was very instantaneous. And the traction on a pull rod was incredible. Probably a little bit because of the physics and everything going on there, but there was also something with that spring rate. So I think what's going on with this hydraulic shock is, since there's no progressive rebound in there, or you'd have to put a ton of rebound in it just to keep the thing loaded, it's gonna stay there naturally without a ton of rebound. The only thing that's really gonna bring that thing down then is braking force or maybe on deceleration, just the stiction and everything going on there, it's gonna wanna drop. So you will need rebound on that hydraulic fifth coil, but I don't think it is as important as a fifth coil shock and spring. I don't know if it's ever been proven or tested. Maybe people have more knowledge than I do. I was away from it, and I'm not as hard into the racing as I used to be. I kind of give my opinion on these videos. I go to a lot of racing, but I'm actively not building race cars. And years ago, I was working a little bit with the Eckhriches in Iowa. And they told me once, and this was mid 2000s, maybe late 2000s in there someplace. They told me once they thought there was a relationship between the tie down on the right front and the rebound on that fifth coil. And, I always kind of played with that back then, but I've always been kind of keeping it in the back of my mind, what is the relationship there? But I think what's going on there is you want to keep the car loaded. And I think that's what they were going to. This was a time when we all were increasing our rebound, and we're way past where we were years ago, but we were always kind of creeping it up, and the cars felt better and the cars felt better. And I think is what we were getting to is it's keeping the car and even that fifth coil loaded up, so that fifth coil shock, you could come off the corner with that 300-pound spring, but then the more rebound you'd put into that fifth coil, it would keep that at a 900-pound loaded in deal. So when you got back with it, it was a shot. It was a stiff shot. But then when your car slowed and your corner speed slowed, you'd still have the 300-pounder that was all relaxed to get your car going again. So when we first I was working with a team and we put this in, and it was kind of told, this is what everybody runs, this is what you got to do. But the more I think about it and the more I think there's some things that we want to get into to make it tunable. We can make these things better. This is not this is what you run and this is it. This is opening up if, of course, if the sanctioning bodies don't squish it, but this is opening up a whole new level of possibility with this thing. The one that we had this year was compression and rebound adjustable, and then it had a bump stop on there. So as you play with your bump stop numbers, heights, I think that fifth coil shock and the fifth coil link, you might want to put more bump, less bump on there, because I think keeping that lift arm now at a certain angle and keeping that pinion positioned perfectly, you don't want to get that pinion angle too far out of whack. That fifth coil shock height, fully compressed and the rebound, is something you're going to want to play with over time. Now remember that fifth coil now that you're playing with heights, that it's got a panhard bar end attached to it on the back. So whenever that thing wraps up, imagine that panhard bar thing coming up and you're losing panhard bar angle. So it's not just the front of the fifth coil or the front of the lift bar that you got to worry about. Think about that whole system all the way to the back, all the way to where that panhard bar hooks up. I'm getting ready to go to St. Louis next week. It's the first time I've ever been to the Dome, and I don't have to work on anybody's car. I'm just going down to spectate. So if you see me down there and you're a watcher of the vids, say hi. Or if you have any questions or you want me to make a video out of something, I don't like to get real car or driver specific. It takes me a long time to learn about what you're doing to the car and what the driver does to the car to actually say do this or do that. I'd like to keep the thinking on these videos a little more general and give you as much information as I can, so you can do your own research and you at least you got something else to work from in the back of your head as you're working through the process. So if you'd be so kind to like this video and subscribe to the channel, that would really help me out. And if you see me in St. Louis, just say hi. Have a good day, and we'll see you in the next video.